Hello and welcome back to another episode of the International Greenkeepers Fire podcast. Today I'm with Ian Howard, the Managing Director of the Howardson Group. They own and run Dennis, Sisis and now Lloyds and Hunter Grinders. This is a brilliant episode and I hope you enjoy it. First of all, Ian, thank you for taking your time to being on the podcast. We really appreciate it, and obviously listening and hearing about what you have going on at Dennis and Sisis and the Howardson Group. So first of all, if you'd like to introduce yourself a little bit, tell us a bit about your background, how you got involved with the Howardson Group, and where you are today.
Okay, thanks. Well, as I say, my career started at Howardson back in 1985 when I returned from overseas. My father had previously bought a bankrupt business, which was Dennis Mowers of Godstone, back in 1981, and he called me while I was overseas and said, Ian, I think this Dennis Mowers job's a goer. If you want to run it, come and join us. He was second generation in our engineering business. Very little experience in marketing, but a lot of experience in manufacturing. So I came and joined the business 38 years ago next month, and we basically set about repolishing, if you like, the brand name of Dennis to its rightful place in the market. It's a tall order, although manufacturers had advanced and Dennis had sat a bit in the background, but we took hold of it and have invested in it ever since.
So it's obviously quite a big development from where it was to where it is today. When you joined, what sort of role were you in at the time, and how has that progressed to where you are now?
Well, working in a family business is very different from where I was in a multinational, but learning about marketing was probably the most interesting part of the whole thing, of what was needed. We needed to make what customer wanted. And my role evolved from there as we started to gain back market share in our very specific range of cylinder mowers that we produced. We started to grow the product range. We expanded various different machines, made different sizes, different engine types and such like. And then back in 1991, after we'd moved into the current premises here in Kirk Langley, the opportunity came up to purchase what was JP Mowers, which were down in Woking in Surrey, who'd gone bust in 1971. We bought that, princely sum of £5,000, with 8 tons of bits and pieces, and dragged it all up to Derby. And from that, we developed the FT range of machines, which is now frighteningly 40 years since we started. Which is now 30 years since we started manufacturing FTs, and it's been one of our most successful products. As time has gone by, we've purchased other businesses as well. Marathon mowers, which were Verge mowers and such like. We purchased Sisis back in 2011 from Macclesfield, again a business that was in some amount of financial difficulty. Bought that in-house as well. Since then we've purchased Wolverhampton Pressings, who manufactured the cutting cylinders, and then back in late November, early December, we purchased the Lloyds and Hunter Grinders brand from down at Letchworth.
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot to that, and like I say, the development of Dennis, Sisis, the Howardson Group over the years has been quite, formidable, really. But for yourself, from the marketing aspect, when you joined the industry or joined Howardson Group, how do you go from the sort of marketing side of things to everything else? Because obviously it's different from marketing to actually using the machine on the grounds. How do you develop all of that information and be able to sort of correlate between the two sides of the industry almost?
I think it's all about getting to know customers, getting customers to explain and potential customers to explain what it is they're after, what they're trying to achieve. We've worked very closely with hundreds of different groundsmen and women across the country and indeed across the world to listen very carefully to what they want, what they need as technology progresses in pitch construction and all the rest of it. The sports turf world is very different to what it was back in the mid 1980s now, with hybrid pitches and people demanding more and more and more from sports turf. And of course the TV, which has been absolutely instrumental in our development as a company, as the whole world is now looking in colour at football pitches, and the customers paying for the watching the sport and such like expect to see great looking pitches rather than the mud baths in the 1970s that dare I say in black and white everyone was looking at.
Yeah, definitely. The standard of all sports, not just football, cricket, rugby, like you say, the televisation of the sports as well has changed massively. But with that as well, how do you go about adapting your machinery or the products that you create to sort of work with that? Because if a new technology comes out and say, for example, a piece of machinery wasn't sort of compatible with, if it was a stitch pitch or you using rakes or aerators or various things, and maybe it wasn't compatible. How do you go about that?
Well, the great thing about our company and All British Precision, our machine shop, which is right next door to where we are at Kirklandby here, and a very skilled design department with knowledge of what we've got, what we can do, what can be done. So a great team of people. We put the problem on the table and then we sort it out, basically. We don't start with a price and then work back to the product. We start with the product to do the job and then we work the price from there, because you can't have compromise in a high demand marketplace like sports turf, where somebody's being paid to do the job, generally, certainly in football and rugby. They need a job to do they need a machine to do the job, do it effectively, do it well, and do it time after time. So development is it's a process, working with customers, try it out, do something, take it to the customer or potential customer, show them what it does. They say, well, we could do with this a bit further over that way, and that's not very good. Go back, try it again, take it back to the customer. It's a very close relationship of working with them as partners, really, as we do with so many things. So it is a partnership between customer and manufacturer.
Yes, of course. And you mentioned there obviously about costs, and there's currently the cost of living, and various football clubs have folded, and there's been a lot around that. And like you say, with your machines, it's very important that they're at the best possible standard they can be at. How would you work that into today's market? I know it's ever changing and there's a lot into that, but how can you still be the top of the top, but also provide a good value?
I think with all these things, you have to look at it as a whole life cost rather than initial purchase price. You've got the guy or girl or person, sorry, you've got the person standing behind the machine, which costs a lot of money. And the machine needs to do the job and do it well for a good length of time. So initial purchase price, no different to buying a car or a van. You need to buy something that's going to last the distance and give you a good service with as few breakdowns as you can possibly get. So giving good value is all about whole life costs, not necessarily just about initial purchase price. There's a lot of cheap imported Eastern product that comes in, not necessarily mowers, but other stuff. 2 years down the line, people are throwing it away, getting it recycled or putting it in landfill. That's not our policy. We're very much we are a very proud British manufacturer of all our products, so it needs to be right for the job. And overseas markets, that's what they demand as well, whether you go to Japan or Germany or France or wherever. Certainly the Saudi countries, demand for high quality British product is absolutely top of the tree.
Yeah, it's brilliant to see. And another thing I'll go on to is sort of second-hand machinery. There's a lot of people where they might not be able to purchase new, but there's a lot of Dennis second-hand machinery that's around to be able to purchase. And off the back of that, what sort of backup would you give on sort of parts and warranties maybe on, if I was buying a 10-year-old machine, can I expect the same sort of quality still? And even to meet today's standards as such, if it was being used League Two, League One football club, what can I expect from that?
Well, the products themselves, take the G860 as a classic example, which we developed in the early 2000s, so it's now 22, 23 years old since we brought that out. The products are still the same. The cassettes are still interchangeable between a new one and one that's 15, 20 years old. So it's possible to continue to repair these products. It gets to a point where it's no longer economically viable, but the Honda engine is the same engine we use today as it was 20 years ago. So all the engine parts, Honda's very good for its backup on engine parts, and the rest of it is very much standard. And this is what we've done right the way through. The Dennis Premier, as an example, we've just celebrated our 100 years, as you mentioned earlier. The Dennis 36-inch bottom blade is the same drawing as it was in 1922. So the same blade will fit 100 years of machinery.
Yeah, which is quite incredible.
Which is unbelievable, really. That but design it well, design it properly. Why change something that works? We're not here to make continual obsolescence out of stuff. Things evolve, but the general maintenance of the machine, we can help people pretty well with anything that's certainly in the last 20 or 30 years. And if we can't help them, we'll make something that can help them. So
yeah, obviously that's a massive thing for some clubs, like I say, that are just not in the position to be at the cutting edge of sports turf at the moment, to know that they can get the parts and even the machinery is still available, still in good working order, can be a massive game changer, really. Obviously today we're here at Kirk Langley at the factory, and we've got all of the facilities around us, but even like the part storage that we can see at the back, but the listeners can't see. It's just an incredible facility with a lot going on, and there's so much to it. It's almost, you can't really describe over a chat on sort of what's going on in the sort of scale, but it really is so much to, ordering a spare part for a machine. It's vital. Like you say, it's keeping machines out of landfills. It's keeping people away from buying crap, essentially. And there is a lot out there at the moment, and I spoke to people about it recently, where stuff's being manufactured and almost instantly landfilled, ready to go. Whereas here, it's obviously a lot of it's made in Britain, made here in Derby as well. So you go from I've seen the factory and I've been around, but you go from basically a raw piece of steel or metal into machines. And so with that process, what goes on? I know you get the block in on a pallet, and then how can we go from that to a machine?
Okay, well, everything's drawn on CAD. We've got very sophisticated design facilities to draw the components, for tolerancing the components up so that they work effectively. Those orders are then placed on All British Precision, which I'm a shareholder in that business as well, so I've got a very keen interest to ensure that's right. And they then manufacture the part to our order. Might be a batch of 100 or 50 or 10, or depending on what it is. And then they deliver them to us after they've inspected them, and we put them into a machine or into spare parts. So there in All British, they manufacture nearly 1,400 different parts for Dennis, Sisis, Lloyds and Hunters over there, and supply them into us, which is almost 50% of our inventory is actually made here on site. And obviously we make our own cutting cylinders, bottom blades and such like, which is the critical part of the whole machine, certainly on a mower side of things. That we are in full control of quality and ensuring that they are made to the very highest standard.
I think that's probably the most important part. You know exactly where it's come from, what tolerances it's been made to, and how it should perform. But again, it goes back to just that performance quality. You know what you're getting when you sign up for the brand, essentially, which is it's Dennis, Sisis, Howardson Group, at Hunter Grinders. But with Hunter Grinders, obviously that was quite a recent thing. How's that sort of merger into the company been? Because obviously they had mowers at Lloyds, and you deal with mowers at Dennis. How is that? Are they going to be direct competitors? How?
Well, the Lloyds. I've been looking at Lloyds and discussing with Clive Nottingham, the owner, for some time, as he wanted to take a back seat and retire. We see the Lloyds product as complementary to what we do. It's a dedicated mower, very popular in cricket. It's a nice lightweight machine. It's ideal for golf course, greens mowing and such like, certainly in challenging conditions where a triple would make marks and such like. It's lightweight, relatively low cost, comes in at just over 80 kilos, which is certainly lighter than any of our Dennis product that we manufacture, and lighter than many of the other manufacturers that are out there, certainly in the golf course industry. The gang mowers, I've always had a respect for the quality of the Lloyds gang mowers. They're now the only manufacturer, or the only European manufacturer of gang mowers out there. We know we can make them well. They are really belt and braces well made, there to do a job. And we see that certainly with the pressures on pricing, as we've seen in the last few years, or the last couple of years post, as COVID's come through, where now for a ride-on triple mower, you're looking thick end of £100,000. You can get a set of gang mowers to put behind a tractor for a lot less money. No hydraulics, no problem. Get out there, cut the fairway or cut the football field or whatever. So we see a massive demand for that. We're not looking to change the design particularly. We're looking to manufacture it in a more cost-effective way. And indeed, we've already started on the manufacture of those there. So the Paladin will remain as a 21 and a 24-inch mower, with or without groomer, with or without transport wheels, single height of cut, twin height of cut, all the stuff that's there. We've redrawn all of that and modelled it all up, made sure everything fits together and is up to our standard of drawing, and we are already manufacturing those there because we have orders placed already.
Well, that was going to be my next question, actually. Are we looking to see Lloyds to stay around, essentially? Because obviously that's a big thing on people's minds at the moment, that have the machines or are waiting for parts, or they've maybe ordered them, or they've had stuff before, and you're looking at that machine thinking, is it got a lifespan left? Are we going to be able to move forward with it? And obviously we give reassurance, just, and it's still a growing brand, it sounds, and you're going to continue to move it forward.
Yeah, I think Lloyds were in a challenging, Lloyds and Hunter Grinders were in a challenging position of where they were at, and obviously investment is key. We've invested a lot of money in the products already, in redeveloping them and such like. There are a lot of Lloyds customers out there. It's a very well-known brand, certainly in the UK. There's a bit being sold across to Canada and such like, but we see with our worldwide presence a massive market potential for that well-made product to go out there as well. So where it was perhaps only UK based up until 2022, we see potential for the rest of the world, as that's where we're selling Dennis products as well. So that's why we've created the Howardson Group, as if you like, a bit of an umbrella to put the different brands under. Coming on to Hunter Grinders, we've used Hunter Grinders for the last 25 years in our manufacturing facility. We're a big advocate of relief grinding, always have been on smaller machines and our larger multi-blade machines. Absolute belief that it reduces wear, improves cut quality, extends life of cylinder and bottom blade, and the ability to relief grind on a spin grinder is absolutely critical as far as I'm concerned. We've got 4 of them down in our facility where we make cylinders and bottom blades. Always had a great respect for it, well built product, really, belt and braces, British manufactured. It came, let's say, with the Lloyds job, so we looked at it and said, well, this is a product which is allied to what we do. It's the same customers, golf courses, sports fields, maintenance people and such like. So we're already in touch with all of these customers. They sold over the last 30 years a lot of machines all over the world: Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, African countries, all manner of different places. So again, we see a big potential in that there, and we've been very busy getting that redesigned and improved and made for modern manufacturing facilities, which is what we've got with our CNC shop next door there. And indeed, we're expecting the first bed casting to be with us at the end of May. So we're really getting stuck in there. It takes quite a long time to wind all this lot back up. It's not just to pick it up from Letchworth and start again in Derby. It doesn't.
Yeah, because I can imagine you just sort of adopted a load of drawings and it's sort of.
Yeah, and we've had to redraw the whole thing to make sure that we get it right, because it's we're not looking to be a sort of knife and forking our way through that kind of thing, as it's a very high precision job. So castings on order, which is the crucial part of the Hunter grinder, if you like. It's its heart. It's a very rigid grinder, which gives it great accuracy and performance. And we're working with the company that's dealing with all of the electronics for the relief grinding, automatic relief grinding. And again, we've got that within the next few weeks. We'll have the first prototype of that updated version. So, we're working very hard in the background until it's ready. We can't release it, but we're working hard to get it out as soon as we possibly can.
So with the Hunter grinders, can we expect big changes, or are we looking at almost this is a product that works? We'll do what needs to be done and continue development in other ways?
I think aesthetically it will change or improve. It needs a bit of a facelift, as products do from time to time. You've only got to look at cars. They still basically do the same as they did 100 years ago, but aesthetically they change. We're improving the guarding, we're improving the look of the machine, the functionality, the core of it. A little bit like a Dennis mower, the cutting cylinder to bottom blade that's the same as it was 100 years ago. But the look of it, the operation of that machine, the reliability, those are all the things that we are improving now. So and we're going to be doing both the Amazon bottom blade grinder and the ATI cylinder grinder, so you'll be able to spin grind, relief grind, auto relief grind, in situ grind. These are all things that we are working on at the moment, so that it's very easy to do those things, so we can rightfully reassert our position on the world stage of cylinder grinding, which Hunter has a very, very good reputation out there for doing what it says on the tin.
No, you're exactly right. And you mentioned obviously about cylinder mowers being around for a long time. What, in the respect of advancements, what else can we see towards cylinder mowers? Obviously, they've stayed almost the same concept for quite a while. What is there any sort of things we can look forward to? Big changes. Obviously, I know a big thing is not to reinvent the wheel, but do you see movement there, or?
Well, certainly see movement as far as environmental impact is concerned with the batterification of products, which many of your listeners will be well aware that we've been working very hard on that side of things there. It's critical, once you've got an established brand name, that you're very careful not to trash that brand name with a bad product. Very easy to go flying out into the marketplace with a product that doesn't do what the customer wants. Range anxiety, no different to automotive. Range anxiety was the top of many a groundsman's list of it's got to do a full pitch on a charge and still do that in 12, 24 months time from when you buy it. So we listened very carefully and watched from the sidelines how other manufacturers approach this issue. We've been on electrification for 5 years now, and there's a lot of errors that can be made out in the marketplace by not doing what it needs to be done. And the only way we decided that we could do that was really partnering up with experts in those fields, experts in battery manufacture. And we use a battery that's made up in Sunderland, uses the Nissan Leaf cell technology, which is well proven. And we've been using that very successfully and sold literally hundreds of machines out there all over the world, including Qatar for the World Cup. And we're selling to literally all over the world with our battery machines now. But getting that technology right and what the customer wants to know, what the speed is, what the click rate is, how long they've been using it for, what the battery life is, what the charge state is, etc., etc., etc. These things are developed by the customer as they try another manufacturer and say, well, that's okay, but if it did this, it would be a lot better. So we did a lot of listening before we launched out with our Premiers, 860s and other machines that are there. And once we learned that technology, we've now spread that across the whole range of certainly Dennis products. We're working on Sisis products and indeed a lot of very innovative products out there using this battery technology knowledge that we've gained over the last 5 years, and our partners have gained as well working with us.
With that knowledge that you've picked up, how would you go about, a club's approached you and they're concerned maybe about the infrastructure that they've got in place for a battery powered mower, whether it's any available power or any, how would you target that for them? How much would need to be done for them to implement that into, going from their old machines, they're all petrol powered, or maybe even diesel ride-on mowers, into the electric world?
That's a very, very good question. All of our chargers that we produce all work off a 13 amp plug, just off a standard ring main. Our smaller machines have got a small charger and the battery is removable, so that can be charged in a bowls club, in the clubhouse or whatever, perfectly safely. There's no gas emitted, there's no issues from an environmental point of view. And then the bigger machines, we have a charger which runs off a 13 amp plug, and we're now in the final throes of developing what we call a multi-charger station, where we can charge up to 8 machines on one charging station, again simply from a 13 amp plug, with some clever technology that we've worked again with our partners to develop. So over a 8-9 hour period when people are at home or asleep or not working, the machines can all be charged up to top charge, and you've simply got one charger unit that you plug all 8 machines in and it charges all of them, so everything's ready when you're coming in the morning to start work. Yeah. So
you mentioned removable batteries. Obviously for some clubs they don't have a power source, maybe they've just got a shed in the corner of the ground. the removable batteries, that's something they could potentially take home and charge at home, and then bring in to use when they're using the machine.
Yeah, no problem at all. Certainly on the FTs and the smaller range of the machines, which uses the battery technology there, which is removable, weighs 13 kilos. You can pick it up, put it in the back of the car. You can lie it down. You can stand it up. There's no liquid inside it, so there's not an issue there. And as I say, there's no hydrogen or anything else emitted on charging. It's a gas-free charge, if you like. You just plug that in for 20, 30p. You can recharge that battery, and a member of a bowls club could take that battery home, or they can have a couple of batteries and have both of them there charged up. Not a problem. Just like you do with your power tools, really, but it's a bigger battery, because we only want to have one battery on a machine. I'm not an advocate of multi-battery situations, which are
more to charge, more to look after.
There's more to charge, and then it's confusing, and dare I say, they're built for a more domestic marketplace generally. We tried that technology, and we decided that it wasn't for us. Because if you're not careful, you've got multiple machines, you've got 20, 30 small batteries kicking around, and nobody knows whether they're charged or they're not charged. It becomes a bit of a nightmare, to be honest with you. So removable batteries on the small machine to suit the customer, bowls, cricket and such like. Bigger machine, it's a big heavy battery, 35, 37 kilos, stays on the machine, you plug it in and charge it from there.
With the smaller machines, are your plans for the batteries to be interchangeable so they can be used
between
machines?
It's all the same battery throughout every machine. All of the big machines, the Premier, the 860, 760s, and the rotary, the 34-inch rotary, it's all the same battery across all of them. Same motors, same battery, same control screen, different control box, because there are different things that are required, but all manufactured by the same company. So lots of interchangeability there. As again with the small ones, we've got one type of battery that fits across everything from a FT510 through to a Razor Ultra or whatever else. So we've basically got two types of battery, one for the small machines and one for the large machines.
Obviously, one of the biggest concerns for people with electric machines is obviously rain, water, even washing machines. How is that avoided, or is that going to be a potential issue? Is that something that needs to be looked out for? Obviously, there's stuff like jet washers as well, which are just scary to any battery or electric motor. Do you provide recommendations with that as well?
Yeah, we recommend you wouldn't wash your toaster out in the sink.
Well, very good analogy.
You'd only do it once, wouldn't you? Really?
You wouldn't be able to do it again.
You wouldn't wash your toaster in the sink, and I think you have to respect that this is an electrical item. A pressure washer has a very, very high intensity of water going into there. It will get into pretty well anywhere. Pressure washing is not recommended on electric machines, on any electric machines, not just a Dennis or Sisis or Lloyds or whatever. You wouldn't wash a Hunter grinder down with a pressure washer. Why would you wash that then? It can be blown off, it can be wiped off. It's all very convenient to be able to pressure wash it, but as I say, don't wash the toaster in the sink.
Yeah, that's a brilliant analogy. But in terms of sort of rainfall or anything like that, obviously, it's not ideal to be cutting in the rain, but if the situation presents itself.
Rainfall's not an issue. It's the pressure that's created in a pressure washer, which will cut your foot off. If you put your bare foot down, you'll cut your foot off with a pressure washer. So people don't necessarily appreciate how much pressure is coming out, but it will drive water into electrical components, seals and such like. With its what they call the IP rating, all of the batteries and motors are IP rated, but that's against what I call rainfall and such like. It's not about total submersion or anything else. You know, it is electrics. As I say, you wouldn't.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're not going
yeah.
to be cutting ponds with a mower. Yeah.
I hope not.
Yeah. With the Lloyds, are we going to expect to see electric Lloyds?
We're looking at that at the moment. I'm not going to reveal all that we're doing because obviously there's a lot of stuff going on in the background. We've got a lot of projects of electrification or batterification of all manner of stuff that we already produce, and also some new and innovative products, which we're hopeful that by the end of 2023 we're going to have working prototypes of a couple of machines, which I'm really excited about, that will give customers in our marketplace a more innovative, quiet, low vibration, low running cost solutions for various different functions that they perform on their pitches and such like.
Is this something we can look forward to at Soltex or BTME, or we're way into next year?
There will be a working prototype that we'll then take to a select number of potential customers to work with them to refine it. This is certainly the major project. There's a lot of work to do on it, so it's not going to be at Soltex 23. I would hope it's going to be at Soltex 24.
That's positive. You know, it's always great to see more innovations and things moving forward within the industry. But with the Howardson Group as a whole, what is the next step? Where do you see? Obviously, every day you want to improve and get better. What is the next step?
We're a family-owned business. My daughter Megan, as MD in waiting, she becomes the MD at the end of 2024, and my role evolves more into new product development, as I need to have succession plans in place. She's fourth generation in the business. We're privately owned. It's owned by the family. There's no external shareholders. So we're looking to create a continually growing, strong British business that's involved in the sports turf sector. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. If other things come along in there, and you never know what you might be offered next, we will consider it as to whether it fits in and we can do it justice, really. I think what we mustn't do is to lose the edge that we've got with the product brands. We've sort of everybody, when we bought Sisis, everybody said I was completely mad and it was a run out brand, and everybody had abandoned ship with it there. But indeed, some of those greatest critics become some of our greatest brand advocates over time. So
it speaks for itself when even I've used machines from the 90s, the maxi slits, and there's been various other bits of cedars and top dressers that are still knocking around and working today, and actually you can still get parts for, because I know that for a fact because I've ordered the parts and I've fixed them myself. So again, it's all part of that sustainability and ensuring that there's a good end product and it stays around for a long time. But here at the factory at the moment, one of the things I wanted to talk about was the paint booths and the paint factories, the paint spraying factory, how that came about, because obviously that was a big thing for you, to being able to bring that in-house. It's just one small part of the cog, I know, but it's something that we could very well focus on.
Yeah, we used to wet spray everything originally, and that's what Sisis did back in 2010 when we purchased them. It's not ideal. Wet spray. All painting is about preparation. A bit like if you paint your house or paint your door, it's all about what you do before you paint it, not actually the painting itself. And we subcontracted out our painting to powder coaters, which is basically you electrostatically charge the metal item, and then you apply a powdered, in effect, a polymer, a plastic, to that item, then goes into an oven, gets cooked at 230 degrees or somewhere around there for 20 minutes, and then it bakes on as a skin, if you like, on the metal. So it's quite a specialist process, but the preparation of the metal before you put it on is the critical thing. Always been the critical thing. So we have a lot of problems with adhesion of paint to metal, with the subcontractors who weren't really doing the preparation work as we required. And we made the decision back in 2016 that this was unsustainable with the amount of travelling that we were doing, lorries backwards and forwards to pack the stuff up, drivers, thousands of miles of transport, which is obviously, this is what we're trying to avoid in the environment, is excessive road miles, air miles or whatever. So we said, right, well, we're here to invest, let's build our own paint plant. So we sought advice again from partners out there as to what was the best oven, what was the best shot blasting booth, what was the best wash plants and such like, to get the best possible paint finish that we could. So that was 2016. Got planning permission for the building, bobbed the building up. 6 months later, we were busy painting.
Yeah, it's an incredible story to go, like I say, from literally just, what comes in raw material to go out as a whole machine from one site is, it's almost unthinkable. You go around most of the world at the moment and you can parts and bits are shipped everywhere from here and there, and then assembled somewhere and then shipped somewhere else as well. So it is really nice to see the sort of, the whole family aspect of it, and it's all here in Derby, which is, again, it's all part of that brand, and it's really important for you.
Yeah. Again, for the likes of the fabrications that we do, a lot of the Sisis fabrications, and indeed the Dennis frameworks that we use now, for a lot of the machines, they're all manufactured by our partner business who are 15 miles away from where we are here. They come in on a daily basis, bringing us components. It's all manufactured in there, all the welding and such like, and they bring that in, but it's absolute minimal road miles that we're doing in order to solve that fabrication problem. So keeping it local is critical, because it also means we can keep a very tight control on costs and deliveries and quality and all the other things that are important.
Yeah, like you say, obviously, sustainability is a big part of that as well. You're trying to lower the footprint while still providing the best possible product that you can, essentially. But with the site here, do you plan on staying here? Is there going to be further development?
Yeah,
obviously growing massively still, and shipping around the world. There's so much to it. How can you control all of that? And is it almost worth having two places, or do you want it all in one place to ensure that the quality stays the same?
Well, everything's on the site here at Kirk Langley, and the fabrication company, that's another business which we're not associated with. They're just a supplier to us. So everything's on one site here. We are continually changing, making things better all the time. The vertical storage units, which you've seen out there, have freed up a massive amount of space within the factory to be more efficient, to get more out of the same. We have now we have an off-site storage facility for slow-moving items, which is just a couple of miles up the road. But indeed, we are in the process of developing now a training facility on site here, utilising a building that's currently let out to enable us to be able to train people in mowers, Sisis equipment, Lloyds equipment, and of course the Hunter grinders. So we are in the planning stages at the moment of a full training facility, so people can come from all over the world to learn about how to use and how to maintain grinders, mowers, Sisis equipment, and all the rest of it. So we're looking at that right now. It's probably going to be a 2024 before that gets started, but again, a very exciting development.
Is that something you're looking at for everyone, or just for internal staff? Because obviously not just the sports circle, I know the engineering side of things, there can be labour shortage. Is that something that you're aiming towards as well?
Yeah, I think the facility will be usable by everybody on the site, and indeed we already have lots of groups come here for meetings. They have a bit of a factory tour and such like. Factory tours are a very popular thing, and we've just had 25 overseas dealers and importers over a couple of weeks ago. They come around the factory. Everybody likes to see things being made. It's a fascination of the vast majority of people to actually see things being manufactured rather than just a box with a lot of overseas writing on it. I'll leave it like that. But it's the making of stuff is, to me, a very exciting part of it. Whether it's the cylinders or the bottom blades or the individual components in the machine shop, or indeed putting stuff together here. So getting visitors here to see the Howardson Group story, if you like, is a critical part of our ongoing success, I think. And certainly the world is a massive place. We've had people from Colombia, Argentina, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, all manner of countries been here to see the facilities, and then they've gone back and told that Howardson Group story to their customers all over the world, that's what we need to continue to do.
Yeah, it's massive, and obviously the backbone of it all is education, because people get to see exactly where it comes from, what it is, and even your methods of you doing it correctly and how it should be done. But with the stuff like the cricket days that have been on this year, how important is it to you to give back to the industry in that way and to be able to put these events on?
I think it's absolutely critical. Cricket and bowls are quite different. Bowls is generally a rather more amateur, and I mean that with the greatest of respect, an amateur club level, where the thirst for knowledge is absolutely vast. Most of these people are not greenkeepers. They don't arrive at the club with any prior knowledge. It's just a 45 by 45 block of grass that they just cut short every week.
Yeah.
I think that's probably how some people look at it, but there's a lot more to it to get great playing surfaces, bowl speed, and healthy sward and all the rest of it. So passing that on is critical, because if we don't educate the potential customer with the benefits of doing particular functions on a bowling green, as an example, they're never going to know about it. So as long as they can realise, well, if you verticut, it means you can leave your grass length at 5 millimetres, which then means for a more healthy sward because you're not removing all of the life-giving leaf. A lot of people don't understand that. So, and of course, with the ageing population, you need to be continually reinvesting in those bowls clubs. But that's critical. Likewise with cricket, I think it's a different age profile generally.
A lot of volunteers.
Of volunteers, people who haven't necessarily got as much time as perhaps those in the bowling club have got. They're looking for innovative ways of getting a great playing surface, whether it be a school or whether it be a private cricket club or whatever. That education is critical, and talking to customers, them getting to know what we're about, what we offer, from the combi rake at £500 or whatever it costs, up to the latest and greatest scarifier. People come along and say, actually, if 3 cricket clubs bought one of these between them, we could share it around between us. And this kind of thing, whether it be finance, whether it be agronomy, whether it be seeds, I think that's the critical part of all of our education. This isn't just about Dennis, Sisis, Lloyds and Hunters. This is about a wide range of interesting topics. We don't charge to come to them, unlike some others. There's no charge for coming to it there. We work with our sponsors, put on a bit of lunch, people come, and of course we get thousands of questions then to the panel. What about this? What about that? I'm having a problem with this. And it gets people chatting, and I think this sort of all working together, cricket clubs working together, sharing knowledge, sharing machinery, sharing experiences, is absolutely critical for quality of pitch, square, green, or whatever. I think it's the way forward, because people meet people of nearby bowls clubs, as an example, and say, "Oh, we'll give you a call. We'll come and have a look at your green, how you do things. You come and have a look at ours," and it's all about sharing, because the world we need to learn from each other. So I don't have a problem at all with doing that. We've been doing it for 20 odd years now, from when we used to work with Dave Bracey many moons ago, from the Met Police Sports Ground, to Alan Lewis and various other speakers now. They've not got an edge to them. We're not pushing our product. It's there for people to see. It's not even a soft sell, but I think people respect the fact that we're doing that. So it is to us critical. I think we're probably certainly one of the major players in that kind of seminar program that we do.
Oh, completely. I've been to a couple myself, and they're massively educational. There's a lot going on, and a big thing is networking, the amount of people that can be there. Even like you say, it could be the person at the local club down the road that you've never met, or it could be someone 100 miles away that does something completely different at their ground because it rains all year, for example.
Yeah.
It's really important and good events to get to. Can we expect to see more of those events in the future? Will we be seeing any in golf maybe, or race courses with aerators and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think we are continually looking at how we can improve our offering in all of those markets. And as our market expands, as an example with the grinders, and this definitely I see as a potential to expand our offering into the golf course market, which has been dominated mostly by American imports. The grinders gives us a great lead into those there. We're talking to the greenkeepers and the maintenance guys on golf courses, and then we can back offer Sisis equipment, Lloyds hand mowers, scarifiers, and all the other bits and pieces for golf courses, as well as obviously grinding. Again, there's a massive thirst and a lack of understanding about good quality grinding.
Yeah. Well, I'm always going to put two and two together there. You mentioned earlier about your training programs and obviously the grinders now. Is that something that we can see moving forward together?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is why we're looking to develop this training facility down in the front unit here, was the ability to have people in, to train them on grinders, to get them hands-on, learning to grind cylinders and bottom blades and such like, the finer points. It's not easy when they're in the workshop and they've only got a particular type of machine, or a lack of availability and a lack of time to concentrate. Come here for a day, bite a lunch, you grind a couple of cylinders, you relief grind the cylinders, you understand how it all works, how the machine works.
Yeah, it's so important.
You could ask no more.
Yeah, like you say, a lot of people might even, well, they might not have grinders altogether, but they have, they might only have 2 or 3 machines, certain cylinder mowers with the same size cylinder, same, just straight in, just, very minimal adjustments, and they just go to it. But say, for example, clubs that have got multiple different mowers with different sizes, they need to obviously know how to set those up correctly, and that's something that you're going to get involved in.
Absolutely. And I think the skill set that's out in the golf courses is, we're finding even now that people have perhaps been trained on these things. Perhaps the training wasn't particularly good. We're looking now at the CGI, computer-generated imagery, to help to educate people so that they can do more and more of the stuff themselves. And if they don't know, as we've seen on some of the CGIs that we use for setting cylinders and bottom blades, very clever imagery. It makes it absolutely straightforward. You go on the internet, you can learn how to put new battery in your car key, or 1,000 other things, because it's all there. Yeah. Whereas before the internet, you couldn't do that. So we're looking to really improve the training and getting your best out of the product, because that's what customers want. They want something that's trouble-free, easy to maintain, and if they've forgotten how to use it, they need a resource to be able to go to, say, yes, that's how you do that. I've forgotten that. Yes, I have to do this, this, and this, and away we go.
It's such an important thing to touch on, because I've mentioned it yesterday, for example, talking to Robert, where people perhaps found themselves in positions where the head groundsman's left, the deputy's not very well, they're having to look after a stadium, for example, and they've never been trained to set up the cut on a mower. They just go out and use it. They're just told maybe check the cut, but they never set them. Someone else sets them for them, or the mechanic sets them, for example, like you say, at a golf course. It is important that the education sort of filters down to everyone, because these situations are finding themselves, especially with the labour shortage and the lack of people. But you can get a job anywhere almost at the moment within the sports turf industry. So it is really nice to sort of see that backing from the Howardson Group as a whole.
Yeah, it's so important. And as things innovate, as an example with relief grinding on the Hunter grinders, many of the manufacturers of either hybrid or pure electric greens, triples, and all the rest of it are now demanding relief grinding, because when you relief grind and take away best part of 2/3 of the width of the contact point of the cylinder blade, you reduce the power requirement dramatically. And to extend range, you need the least power demands possible. If you've got cylinder and bottom blade grunching across one another because the blades aren't sharp and you've got a lot of contact, you will drain the battery very, very quickly. A bit like driving along with a handbrake on. It's not an ideal situation. So educating all sorts of people, whether they be top level greenkeepers or amateur bowls club members who are just got a bit of time and they come and cut the green 3 times a week. If everybody knows what they're doing, it will have better playing surfaces.
Exactly. So it works for everyone. We've talked quite a lot about the cylinder mowers, but we haven't talked much today about the rotary mowers you have on offer. Do you still see a market for the rotary mowers? Why are they important in today's market?
I think they're very important, certainly in the stadium marketplace, and indeed in the lower level sports club football ground marketplace, and rugby as well for that matter. Again, we weren't first to the market with this here. People traditionally used to use 21-inch rotary mowers, and there'd be 4 or 6 of them marching up and down the football ground after the game to hoover up all of the debris, which is such a no-no, certainly with these high specification pitches that we now see in football. Cleanliness is godliness, and disease in those very highly protected environments is absolutely critical. Disease spreads so very quickly in heated lights, irrigation, very little through draft and such like, a lot of disease potential. So hoovering up, critical. Striping up, critical. So our 34-inch mower, which, as I say, or 86 centimetre, we weren't the first out there, but we learnt a lot by watching what other people did, because collecting 34-inch rotary mowers was not something that you could go and have a look what somebody else had done, because they didn't exist.
Yeah.
Certainly in a form that was suitable for football. We watched what others did, and then we said, well, we can make a better one of those, for sure we can, which is what we did. And now with the battery version of that there, which is, in my opinion, a massively superior machine to the petrol version, as far as noise, vibration and everything else is concerned. It's a very, very effective machine for post-match hoovering, pre-match striping, because obviously we've got the roller and the weight there, and indeed for cutting for a lot of more amateur football clubs where they're looking to get a stripe, but can't necessarily afford to cylinder mow all the time. As long as you keep the blade sharp, you get a pretty good cut with a rotary. It's not perfect, it's not like a cylinder mower, and I'm not pretending that it is, but it's pretty good. And for growing in and all the other bits and pieces, it's ideal.
Yeah, there's a reason why they've been around for such a long time. It's one of them machines. But you mentioned a bit there about specifications and sort of pitch standards. So we've seen Dennis's now and Sisis's and everything you produce, being shipped around the world at the moment and being used at the top facilities. How closely do you work with people like FIFA on projects and ensuring that your piece of machinery can provide the standard and specification required?
Well, standards are set by FIFA, what weight they want on a machine, what cutting regime, and all the rest of it. That's a specification that they demand, and we make machines to meet their specification. There is no deal between Dennis and FIFA. FIFA specify what they want, and if we can supply them in time, we supply them.
Obviously, there's a lot to that, though. How do you go about testing and ensuring that your products are to that standard?
But certainly within FIFA now, we've got very experienced groundsmen who know what's needed to create a great playing surface that's standard. And I think this is the critical thing, is whether you're in Argentina, Russia for the World Cup in 2018, Brazil, South Africa, or indeed Qatar, those pitches are all up to a particular specification. How flat they are, how well they play, length of grass, etc., etc., etc. So the whole maintenance is very, very prescriptive on how the championship, where the finals and all the main games are played, and likewise the training facilities have to also be up to a standard, and if they're not up to that standard, the very valuable players that come from all over the world for these competitions, they're at risk of either injury or not being able to play as they should be able to. So the specifications, the standards are, in my opinion, critical for football as a whole. We've worked very closely with FIFA to do everything we can to supply machines to whatever championships going on at the moment. Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand, we've supplied machines down there. Under 20s in Argentina, we've supplied machines down there. And as I say, for the last 4 World Cups, we've supplied many hundreds of machines for training facilities and, of course, the main grounds for those there.
With these events being all around the world, some of these are being held on warm season grasses, and I know the characteristics of those grasses can be slightly different to the cold season grasses we have here in the UK. How do you see, is there any impacts? Is there any sort of, between the sort of precision that's required or the standard that's created at the end of it? Are they very versatile? How do they go, do they suit well to the warm season grasses?
Yeah, I think that there are different maintenance regimes that are required. The introduction of more verticutting is certainly critical to keep the warm season grasses from, as I understand it, playing similarly to cold season grasses. They're never going to be perfectly the same. But verticutting, brushing, regular cutting and such like, and height of cut, these are all things that are specified by FIFA of how they think it's best to get the most out of those pitches. So their regimes may change across different areas. Certainly, as we saw in Brazil, you go from places where there's tremendous rainfall at some of the stadia through to almost desert arid conditions on other stadia. They've got different regimes that they needed to adopt.
But with the versatility of the brand, you're able to meet the needs of what they need?
Yeah, I think certainly with the likes of the 860, with its multitude of different cassettes, it's possible to do all sorts of different maintenance regimes to get the pitch into some sort of order ready for the ready for the competition. That's the great thing about the 860, 760 range, electric and petrol, is that you've got a massive portfolio of 10 different cassettes to do all sorts of bits and pieces with that you perhaps wouldn't otherwise be able to do on the playing surface. It's a great benefit of that machine out there in the market, which is why we've sold rocking up for 10,000 of them now, probably.
Yeah, it's quite a few, and it again, yeah, like you say, it's part of that is with the education as well, understanding what the grass is doing, what it requires, and different from site to site, and it goes back to the events that you put on and the publications you put out. It's so important, and pretty much want to end it on that note of sort of education and being the forefront of all things and the positive things that you put back into the industry. And we're looking forward to seeing some more from Dennis, Sisis and the Howardson Group, Lloyds, Hunter Grinders. There's so much to it. It's been a great pleasure to have you on the podcast, and we again, thanks. It's been really great, informative, and we hope people enjoy the recording. If there is any questions or they have anything like that, who can they contact? Where can they find the Howardson Group as a whole? Dennis, Sisis.
Well, we've got our various websites that are up there, the Dennis and the Sisis websites. They can contact us directly by email or whatever. If you've got any queries, if anybody wants to come and see the factory, you're very welcome to contact us, and we'll give you a show around, show you what it's all about.
That's perfect, fantastic. Again, thank you for your time on the podcast today.
Thank you.
So I'd like to thank you all once again for listening. It was another fantastic podcast, and we have more coming up in the future. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and like and share with your friends. It helps us to make more in the future.